All right, good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday, November the 7th. Thank you so much for joining me today. I already see Francis in the chat, Susan in the chat. Good morning to you. Good morning to everyone. It is great to have you all in here for what I think is a very, very important chat again. Just like I thought Fridays was important, I think this one may be even more important just because of the subject topic, just because of, we talked a little bit on Friday how it was Diabetes Awareness Month. This goes hand in hand right with that topic. And it's something that, sugar addiction, we can even call it today, is just something that's rampant in society. We're getting it from so many different foods, from so many different sources. It's added to so many different foods and different sources that, it's really, really hard to limit the amount of sugar that we are getting. And by not being able to limit this amount, it's really having a huge negative effect on our overall health, and as we'll talk about today, on our mind as well. So that's setting up our topic for today. We're going to talk about how sugar affects, all right, and then it can also destroy our health and destroy our brain health, all right? And then we'll get into some of the foods that we're going to want to stay away from, all right, and maybe what we can replace those with. So that's going to be my major topic for today. As always, you guys are welcome to ask any of your own questions. Maybe if you're dealing with some foods that you might want to be replacing sugar type foods with, more than happy to help and more than happy to answer those questions for you. But good morning, Francis. Good morning, Susan. Good morning, everyone in chat. It's awesome to have you being in here. I love these Sunday morning streams. We're up nice and early. I'm watching the thumbs go up and up in real time, literally. So thank you so much, guys. As I always say, I really appreciate your support. And we're back here on another live chat on Foods for Health. So thank you so much, guys. But I really do think that this whole sugar epidemic, and we can call it that because of all of the health issues that have been stemming from this, whether it be obesity, whether it be, and we'll talk about all these other ones, all right, things having to do with our mental health, diabetes, and again, that's why we're connecting it to Diabetes Awareness Month, to heart health, everything under the sun pretty much. And the one thing is, sugar has no nutritional value, guys. All right, no nutritional value whatsoever. People will kind of get this addiction to sugar because it gives them quick energy. All right. A lot of the times, and we talked about this before, and I'm going to give you a list of foods where most of the sugar per day is coming. All right, on average, I think it was based on thousands and thousands of people who were asked. A lot of the foods that I brought up, and this was before I even looked at it, I looked at this list actually last night. A lot of the foods that I had mentioned on Friday that we want to limit, all right, and foods that we want to sort of, we talked about foods that can increase the risk of diabetes and foods that can reduce the risk of diabetes. A lot of the foods that I was mentioning that we want to make sure that we're cutting out are on this list, all right? Now I think that knowledge just comes from working with clients, talking with people, hundreds of clients at this point, and then just research on its own. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be able to guess what they are as well. So again, let me know in chat, guys, if you can hear me. I know Francis and Susan, you guys were in here nice and early. You guys were in here even just before I started, and I think I started right at 7:01. So thank you so much. But let me know where you're listening from, and let me know if you can hear me loud and clear, guys. So thank you very much. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about, before we get into, some of the reasons and some of the effects that sugar can have on the brain and on the body. And it's going to be a really interesting topic when we talk about the mind and just how its negative impact on the mind can be. And we know it has a negative impact on the mind. It's an addiction, all right? There's a sugar addiction. I mean, we can say that there's not, but there's challenges out there, and maybe it's a challenge to yourself. Try to cut sugar out as best as you can. It's almost impossible to cut out 100% just because it's in some of the foods, but try cutting it out for 10 days, 5 days. See how you feel after that. It can be very, very tough. And then a lot of people who are trying to get into ketosis or on a ketogenic diet are having a lot of trouble doing that because they're feeling that kind of sugar crash, the addiction to sugar, even changing from sweetener, all right, or maybe even, a natural sweetener into their sugar when they're usually putting in sugar. That little effect in the morning is having a huge effect on people. And we see in studies that sugar actually lights up the same areas of the brain that other drugs do, or like caffeine would as well. All right, so it's really a true addiction, guys, and it's something that we really need to be mindful of. But let's go over some of the foods just so that we know, what foods do we want to stay away from. We talked a little bit about this on Friday, but where is a good proportion, all right, or a good portion of the foods that are high in sugar coming from? Where's this sugar coming from? What should we be avoiding? And thank you again for the thumbs up, guys. Really appreciate the support. I'm not sure what time it is where you guys are. It's 7:09 here. We had the time go back an hour last night, so it's actually 8. Lots of energy over here. Hope you guys are feeling good today too. So based on research going all the way back since 2007, and it's been kind of updated since 2000 all the way up until at least 2017. It's very, very easy, guys, for us to just have that sugar added throughout the day. I mean, to try to cut it out in 100%, like I said, very tough. So let's talk about some of the foods where you're going to be getting a huge proportion, or at least our average intake of where sugar is coming from. Number one, guys, at over 40%. All right, and this is why I say, and I've talked about in dieting, I've talked about in weight loss, I've talked about in our health discussions, even just going back to a couple weeks ago when I talked about 6 ways to improve your health today. Something you can just do today is we don't want to drink our calories. All right, the reason why we don't want to do that, a lot of the times there's a lot of added sugar into that, and a lot of times it's devoid of nutrients. Now, here's where it kind of gets interesting. Over 40%, 42% of the sugar that we're getting per day is coming from things like soda. So include that in a wide range. It doesn't matter if I'm talking about, any kind. All right, any kind of soda. All right, that's going to be 42%. All right, so for some people it's 90. All right, some people drink multiple sodas a day, or 2 liters a day. All right, over 40% is coming from soda, or like I was mentioning on Friday, sports drinks, energy drinks. All right, energy drinks specifically we talked about on Friday, especially for diabetes, because again, if you're trying to get energy, just like I said right off the bat, of course you're going to want to be getting something that's high in sugar because it's a quick fix, it's a quick energy. It's kind of a quick energy source because you're getting that sugar. It's spiking your blood sugar levels. It's spiking your blood glucose levels, and then it's giving you that added energy. So soda, guys, energy drinks, try to stay away from them as best you can. All right, and then there's things like, here we call it Gatorade, sports drinks, things of that nature. Of course, that's going to be added sugar as well. So huge proportion coming from those, the drinks, guys. That's why I say be careful of drinking your calories, especially when it comes to sugar. Lindsay, thank you so much. Good morning to you. I hope you're having a great day. And again, good morning to everyone else who's in chat right now. But Lindsay, thank you so much for your message there. I really appreciate it, guys. When you guys, I love the engagement. So the more engagement, the better. So thank you, Lindsay. Thank you for joining chat today. Really appreciate it. So first one, guys, soda, energy drinks. Try to stay away from them as best you can, especially if you want to be reducing your sugar intake. The next one, we talked about this a little bit before. It's going to be your desserts, donuts, things that I was mentioning in the morning, things that are going to be causing you to crash. So donuts, croissants, muffins, things of that nature are an easy way to add sugar into your diet. All right, so those foods need to be avoided as well, unless you're making your own from, a recipe that is healthy and doesn't have added sugar, or, maybe replaces it with some sort of natural sweetener, those grain-based desserts, donuts, things of that nature. You're going to be getting a huge proportion of sugar from those foods, well over 10%. It's like 12 to 15% just from those foods alone, guys. So watch out for that, especially in the morning. I know it's a habit. I've worked with clients. They just cannot give up like a certain donut. It can be any donut, doesn't matter. But I've worked with clients. It's like the coffee with 2 sugars in it and a donut. They want to get so healthy. It's a huge goal for them, but they just can't give it up. And why? Because one, habit forming. So that's a habit for them. But two, the addiction. That's their 10 a.m. sort of go-to, something that makes them feel good, something that gives them a little bit of that energy. But it's definitely an addiction. And this isn't just one client that I'm talking about. This is multiple clients. Morning coffee with sugar in it and a donut. Huge in Canada. If you guys know, like Dunkin' Donuts, Tim Hortons, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And again, this is not to be judgmental. It's just something to think about. If you're having a double-double, so 2 sugars in your coffee with a donut, man, you're getting like 40 grams of sugar right off the bat there. Maybe even a little bit more depending on the type of the size of the coffee you're getting and also the type of donut that you're having. And it can be a muffin as well. It doesn't really matter if it's a donut, muffin, anything of that nature. Cookie, people waking up and coffee and a cookie. Super popular, guys. Miss Janet, good morning to you from Florida. Very nice. I'm sure you're getting much warmer weather down there than we are up here. Miss Florida, I was there a couple years ago before all this all the craziness happened. I had the pleasure of being in Florida. So great to have you, Miss Janet. Thank you so much for joining me in chat today, guys. And Miss Janet, I hope you're having a wonderful morning as well. So be careful with the morning desserts, guys. Those are very addictive. All right, those sugary, it's like your go-to. I've worked with clients as well. They love that the sweet in the morning. A lot of the times at night, but for some reason why? Because you wake up and you're craving it. It's almost like a cigarette. It's like coffee as well, but getting that morning fix of sugar. Now the next one, guys, and we talked about this on Friday a lot, and this came back with drinking our calories and trying to reduce sugar. This was a whole discussion that I wanted to make sure that we brought up. And the next one is fruit drinks, apple juice, orange juice, grape juice. It doesn't even really matter what it is, and it doesn't even really matter. I didn't see it in the study. It didn't really necessarily differentiate between sweetened and unsweetened fruit drinks. All right, obviously sweetened is going to have more sugar than unsweetened, but you're going to get a huge amount of sugar from unsweetened as well. All right, so just be careful with those fruit drinks, guys. All right, apple juice and orange juice. I know it's the exact same thing. Some people might not go for the donuts in the morning, but a glass of orange juice in the morning is very, very, addictive to some people and part of their morning routine. Lindsay, you bring up a great point. They say sugar is hard. I've heard the same thing. Yeah, sugar is harder than giving up hard drugs and stuff like that. Absolutely. I've heard the same thing. That's why, people say, well, sugar's not an addiction, or, it's easy to give up sugar. Like I said, try to go 10 days without any sugar. You're going to have withdrawals. It's the same thing with coffee. You're going to have withdrawals like smoking cigarettes. And so we just need to be aware of that. And especially if you've been, and it's the same thing, guys, if you've been doing it for longer and longer. So if you've been, having that morning donut or, a soda or 2 every day, it's going to be harder and harder to give it up, but you can do it step by step. I think that's the important thing. The important thing, guys, is let's say that you're having, and again, you're never judgmental here. So let's say you are having a donut every single morning. And I have clients that have started out like that, and that's fine. At least you're aware of what you're eating. But the one thing that you probably do not want to do, because you're setting yourself up for failure, is to cut it all out at once. I think that would just lead to a reversal where you cut it out. Maybe you last for a week. All right, maybe you last for 3 days, and then you're just going to go right back to it. So what you would want to do is gradually kind of come off, all right, those types of foods. If you're drinking 2 sodas a day, obviously you're not going to give up 14 sodas all in that week. Just no more soda. Some people can do it cold turkey, but I think for a long term, and for most individuals, you would want to do something like, let's say you're having a coffee with a cookie, 6 times a week. For 1 week, you would want to go 4 to 5. The next week, you would go 4. Next week after that, 3. Gradually bring it down, okay? Because, you are going to have those withdrawals, and it is going to be tough, all right? And you got to just kind of fight through it and make sure that you're getting onto the right path. All we can do is try our best. And I think putting your best foot forward, remember, I'm a huge proponent of 1% change a day, guys. Remember, 1% change a day rather than these huge, big changes in your diet or in your workout schedule, whatever it is, changes to your health. When you're doing that, that's when you're really setting yourself up for failure, in my opinion. I've just seen it too many times, working with hundreds of people, friends who have tried, family who have tried. If you're trying to go for the big home run every single time, all right, you're going to strike out more times than you get it. It's just, I think it's almost a fact at this point. 1% changes a day, guys. 1% changes a day. We talked about this in another topic. If you make 1% change a day, so almost changes that you don't even notice, in just 1 year, you're going to be 37 times better, all right? So your health might improve 37 times more than it would from the year past. And that's just making a 1% change, because you're making compounding changes. So the more changes you make and the longer you can sustain that 1%, the better off it is. All right, so let's just make sure that we're making those changes and that we're getting those compounding benefits. So just take it day by day, week by week, and then month by month. Don't go for the home run. You can if you want to. Some people can do it, but to give yourself the best chance, I believe, take it gradually, guys, step by step. But yeah, you're exactly right, Lindsay. It can be very hard to give up. And thank you, everyone, for the thumbs up. I really appreciate your guys' support. Now, let's talk about another one. Just real quickly here, guys. We'll just name off two more, all right? Because I think it becomes pretty self-explanatory at this point. So, obviously, soda and energy drinks, maybe sports drinks thrown in there. Need to stay away from those if you want to reduce sugar. All right, same with your grain-based desserts, fruit drinks. I think your next ones would be like chocolate, all right? So candies, things like that are high in sugar, all right? That's a little bit lower of a proportion, all right? I think it's just barely 5%. And then obviously things like dairy desserts like ice cream and things like that, all right? So just be careful with that, guys. That's where a huge proportion, I think if you're cutting out, like it's almost becomes a cliche where they say if you want to get healthy, you need to cut out soda. We see that soda and even energy drinks now, you can even throw those in. They're becoming so popular today. And there's so many different kinds. If you go into a grocery store or whatever it is, there's a whole energy drink aisle now. Whereas before, when I was growing up, there would be Red Bull. That's it. And maybe like Monster energy drink. But now there's literally shelves full of energy drinks. And again, a lot of them have just as much or more sugar in them as soda does. So just be careful with that, guys. That's the big one, because that's almost 50% of where most people's sugar is coming from. Okay, so now we know the types of foods that we want to stay away from. Now let's talk a little bit about the negative effects that sugar can have on the brain and on the body. I want to start with the mind, all right? We know the body, we can think of some just off the top of our heads, like obesity and things like that. But what we're finding, all right, the reason why sugar is so addictive is because it gives us this, what we would call a reward response, okay? So it kind of gives us this feeling, all right, and that's what makes it addictive, all right? This feeling of one, all right, energy. It can be a huge one, all right? Even temporary happiness, all right? So feelings can increase our mood, all right? And that's why people will have it in the morning. They wake up, all right? They're getting that energy. They're getting that happy feeling. They would call it elation. I think that's what it was called in the studies. All right. And so that can be very addictive. Of course, people are going to want to have that. All right. And it's the reason why, this brain's reward system, all right, just driving foods that cause that increase in blood glucose production, all right, that's going to be even more and more addictive to the brain. All right, because it wants that response, and so does our body. All right, but our brain does too. That's why it has to be. You have to separate the two. Our brain and our body both want those same thing, guys. There's a cookie that I love to eat. The ingredients are organic sugar, 7 grams of sugar, and 7 added for 4 cookies. So 4 cookies, 14 grams of sugar. Susan, I think is that your question there? You know what? It's funny because most people, when you get into specific questions like that, and it's a great question because you have your organic coconut sugar and organic coconut oil, and then 7 grams of sugar. You're still, excuse me, sorry, you are getting sugar in those cookies, clearly, all right? And it seems like there's 14 in there. At the end of the day, guys, it becomes, how much are you willing to put up with? If that's your only sugar, source, is 4 cookies, with 14 grams of sugar a couple times a week gonna, hurt you? Probably not. You just have to make sure, and the whole point of the chat today, I think, is can you stop at 4, or will 4 lead to other types of sugar cravings, or will, will it kind of increase that response to the brain where we want more sugar? That's where we kind of have to be careful. So, a question of is it okay? Well, it's okay depending on our goals, depending on how much sugar we're getting in our daily diet and otherwise, and how our body is responding to the sugar, all right, and how our body is responding to 4 cookies. But again, it's hard to get into those specific questions, just again because, Susan, I know that you're very health conscious. I know you're in here quite a bit and you have all these awesome recipes that you throw out. So my answer would change from person to person. Of course, someone who's already getting 50 to 60 grams of sugar, should they be having those 4 cookies? Probably not. I mean, you're already having a ton of sugar in your diet. If that's the only sugar in your diet for the whole day, the answer is probably going to change just a little bit. All right. But, of course, organic, coconut sugar, all that different stuff. Just remember, at the end of the day, I think the last thing that we need to kind of point out, you are going to have the same effects where you are spiking your blood sugar a little bit with that. Doesn't matter if it's coconut sugar, doesn't matter if it's fruit, doesn't matter if it's certain carbohydrates, you are going to be increasing your blood sugar just a little bit and blood glucose levels just a little bit. So it can have a little bit of a metabolic effect on you, just a little bit there. That's a great question, but the answer depends based on person to person. And oh my gosh, guys, 25 thumbs up. I hope that answered your question, Susan. So again, you got to look at it just like you can. Just at your own individual needs, how your diet is. You got to look at it at a person by person basis. Yeah, Simply Mills, I've had their like quinoa and things like that. Very, very popular products. 25 thumbs up, but thank you so much for the 25 thumbs up, guys. I really appreciate it. So let's talk a little bit. So we'll continue with how sugar can affect the brain. So just very, very quickly, we already talked about the sugar reward response, all right, and sugar's addiction, all right. Sugar being addictive. We've already talked about how sugar can be addictive, all right, because studies have shown, especially for brain activity, and it was already pointed out by Lindsay in here, all right, that because we see that sugar sort of alters this brain's reward system, it further promotes and drives into overeating of sugar. So what we're saying is the more sugar you eat, the more sugar the brain is going to want. All right, the more that reward system is going to get spiked up. So that's one thing that we have to be careful of. And that's why, Susan, I'm so kind of cautious in answering your question there. But the addiction increases because the more we have, the more we want. All right. And so that's the underlying sort of association with what addiction is. So the more we have, the more we want. All right. And then the more we have, the more and more we need to get that exact same response, if that makes sense to you guys. So let's say we're having 50 grams of sugar. Over time, that's not going to be enough. We're not going to get that exact same reward response from the brain. That 50 has to go to 60 or to 75, and it just keeps compounding and compounding onto itself, which makes sugar, again, very, very dangerous and addicting. All right, and dangerous because it has no nutritional value, and it can only lead to potential chronic disease risk factors, certain disease risk factors, and everything of that nature. GTE Robert, sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Thank you so much for joining. Good morning to you, Thank you so much for joining me in here. And guys, you guys are crushing the thumbs up button. Thank you so much. I hope you guys are getting good value from this morning. So that's the first one, guys. Be careful. Studies show, again, overeating. So if we're eating more and more sugar, we've seen through numerous studies, there's a diminished reward response, all right, to that sugar, which just means that we want more and more, all right? Like any drug, the more you have it, the more desensitized you're going to be to it. All right, so the more sugar you have, the more desensitized we're going to become, so that we're not getting that reward, the more we're going to want. All right, and that's where it becomes addictive to individuals. So before, where they were having it at night, now they're having it in the morning and at night, now they're having it mid-afternoon. It just keeps compounding and compounding. And then we'll see here what the effects of that can be. Also, we know, and we've seen through studies, all right, how sugar can actually negatively impact memory. All right, what they found in studies was elevated glucose in the bloodstream. So elevating your blood glucose levels, like we've talked about throughout this whole discussion and pretty much Friday, when you have sugar entering into the bloodstream, or simple carbohydrates, we could even call it, can be harmful to the brain, harmful to the mind. We've seen in studies how it can slow down cognitive function and lead to deficits in both memory, all right, so negatively impacting memory and negatively impacting attention. All right, so your attention can actually decrease by increasing your sugar intake. All right, so negatively affecting the mind, your cognitive function, something that's so important for all of us. And the crazy thing is, people will, have it before work, thinking they're going to be more alert, thinking they're going to have more energy, they can get more done, they're going to be feeling good. It's actually going to have the opposite impact, a negative impact on that focus, on that attention. For myself, and again, I'm not here to say I'm perfect. Trust me. I always start my morning with a protein and a fat. All right. I try not to increase my blood glucose levels or increase my blood sugar in the morning as best I can, even if I'm going to have a pre-workout, even if it's a pre-workout meal. And that's not through reading any studies. This was through trial and error. I always felt a crash in the morning, guys. So what my breakfast would look like is like a whey protein shake in water and 10 to 12 almonds. Literally, like, just count them because I pretty much track calories. But again, that's not because, I've read a bunch of studies, or, I've read a bunch of books, or all this and that, because we know there's so much information. That's just from me having crashes every morning and my workout suffering, and then with the time when I was in school back in the day. All right, this has been years and years of sort of information that I've taken and learned from. The cheddar crackers, yes, that's the nice thing too. If you can find, like, crackers it's so funny because crackers, whenever I'm doing my food consultations with people, crackers are so popular, especially at nighttime. Cheese and crackers is like one of the most popular snacks I've seen people have. And thank you for the 30 thumbs up there, guys. Thank you so much. So we know, one, sugar is addictive. It gives us that reward response, all right? The more sugar we want, the more sugar the brain wants. The more we have, the more we need. All right. We also know that sugar negatively impacts memory and attention. So it can lead and result into slowed down cognitive function. All right. And the reason for this, let's talk about why. We know that high sugar consumption, one, leads to inflammation, not only in the body, guys, but also in the brain. And that's what's going to help lead to memory difficulties or impaired memory. All right. So the reason why we can say that is we know that the inflammation is being increased, again, not only in the body but also in the mind. All right. So also in the brain. All right. And that's going to lead to memory difficulties. All right. So negatively impact our memory. So kind of interesting there. All right. The good news is, though, if you can cut sugar down, then that inflammation will also decrease. So it's kind of a nice, it's just like we talked about on Friday with type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetes, you can reverse it. All right. One, reduce sugar consumption, keep healthy fats high. Not too, like, keep them in moderation, but try to get a good amount of omega-3 fatty acids. And the reason why I say a good amount, it's easy for us to get omega-6s, omega-9s. We want a good ratio between omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Also, as everyone knows, probably by now, knows how much I love turmeric, curcumin, all right, can also help decrease inflammation in the brain. One of the best anti-inflammatories out there. I'm addicted to, okay. I hope you don't mind me reading this out loud, Miss Janet. Then I'm addicted to sugar. Unfortunately, I don't have it. Or smoke, really, even drink coffee. But I crave sugar, especially every night. Miss Janet, you know what? That is, that's way more normal. I hope you know that that's way more normal than you may think. A lot of people are in the exact same boat. And whenever I've said this before, it might have been a while, but whenever I do food consultations with individuals, we'll usually go, you don't want to make it super long because you don't need a full history, but you just ask, what does a normal breakfast look like? What does a normal lunch look like? What does a normal dinner look like? I just usually split it up into 3 meals. From there, I'll literally just draw a line on a piece of paper, one that I just created myself, and then ask, what do you have at nighttime? And then that nighttime is basically asking, what are your nighttime snacks? All right, and that's when you see ice cream. That's when you see cookies, donuts, soda, things of that nature. It's literally, I've just done so many of them. I just have to kind of make my own little system where we talk about nighttime sugar cravings. And that can be for a number of different reasons. Again, habit forming. Again, our brain wanting that sugar reward response. It's very common. It's addicting, guys. All right. We have to know that the sugar addiction is something that's real. There's been numerous studies out there. And then even as Miss Janet is saying right here. All right. And you know what, Miss Janet, you're not the only one. Trust me. All right. So again, at nighttime, huge. All right. It's one of the major times when people are reaching for those sugary, it can be drinks, it can be foods, it can be whatever. It doesn't matter. That and in the morning too as well, but nighttime for sure. But again, literally in every consultation I do, all right, and if they're telling you exactly what they're eating or if they're not, all right, over time. Okay, at nighttime, that's when you see the sugary stuff, right? Maybe even during the day, but nighttime is specifically when it really starts to show up. So thank you for sharing that, Miss Janet. And again, you're not alone. Lindsay, love avocados. Great superfood. We talked a little bit about avocados being a nice food to help reduce diabetes on Friday. Michelle, blessed Sunday to you. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being back in chat. It's great to have you in here. Huge supporter of the channel, and thank you. And same with Susan. You eat 4 cookies a day. That's it. Very good. I thought so, Susan. Like I said, very health conscious, and I know that you've done a great job of maintaining weight. So congratulations to you, Susan. Very nice. All right, let me just make sure I catch up on some comments here. And thank you for the 33 thumbs up, guys. Wow. Sugar is in everything. It's so hard not to consume. Absolutely. That's kind of why I was saying at the beginning, it's hard to reduce sugar in its entirety. It's added to pretty much all of our foods. And don't just think of sugar, but you can think of things like honey or, like modified corn syrup and things like that, or corn syrup. Right? It's in it comes in a bunch of different forms. Monk fruit and stevia. Oh, monk fruit's popular. Does these cause the same effects as cane sugar? No, it does not, Miss Janet. Stevia doesn't. Monk fruit, I've been asked about monk fruit a couple of times. I haven't read too much on monk fruit. I might have to look into it. I know that you just want to be careful. I would always say with monk fruit, I just know some people can be allergic to it. It's an used as an artificial sweetener, but some people can have allergic reactions to it. Is it going to give you the same impact sort of that cane sugar would? No, but it can cause a little bit of spikes in blood sugar as well. Not as much, not nearly as much as sugar would, but there have been some studies that kind of show out. I think stevia is your best bet. Monk fruit sounds good, but if you're going to go like Splenda or stevia of course would be your best one. It's funny, when we were children, sweets and chocolate were given as rewards. Wow, you make a great point there, Lindsay. Absolutely. Spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Yes, absolutely. You're 100% right. It was kind of given as a reward, 100%. And even you kind of see the history of sugar as a reward, and it was given as a reward for good behavior, all right, which is quite interesting. So you're 100% right, or for doing something good. I grew up in the 70s and candy was usually given on special occasions, unlike now. Yes, also you guys are bringing up amazing points. High fructose corn syrup and so many things. Exactly. I try to avoid regular foods that have it in it as best you can, 100%. So that modified corn syrup, you can also call high fructose corn syrup. Exactly. It's in a number of different foods. I have one friend and a family member who works a lot in nutrition, and the high fructose corn syrup, the amount, so you know how there's been shortages in supply is the correct term that I'm looking for. There's been shortage supplies. Well, in some of these foods that are being made in huge proportions, so let's say they're given out to like grocery stores or like to hospitals and things of that nature, so things that are being made in high amounts. High fructose corn syrup, the supply was so low, it was actually causing a slowdown in the foods that were being able to be produced. So it just goes to show you how important high fructose corn syrup is and how much it is actually included in so many foods. But you guys bring up a great point. Like in the 70s, 80s, candy was like even in the 90s growing up, it was for special occasions. Now it's given almost on every day. Like ice cream is an everyday thing. Because I read an interesting like kind of history of sugar. Like you would go out for ice cream. Ice cream would be a reward on like the weekend, or something the family would do on the weekend. Now it can be something that's done almost every single night, just because it's so easy to access. And there's just so many different kinds out there. It's very easy to get. So, that addiction is very easy to feed, no pun intended, just because of all of the different sources and different areas that we can get it. All right, so I think that we're on a great discussion here. You guys are bringing up great points. Let's just really quickly sum up how sugar can negatively affect the brain. One, it's addictive. We know that it's addictive. It creates a sugar reward response. All right, that's the first one. All right, the second one, it can negatively impact cognitive function. All right, we see through increased inflammation that's caused by sugar consumption. This increased inflammation, can lead to memory issues, can lead to issues with attention span, less focus during the day. All right, and again, if we want to kind of increase those things, we need to decrease inflammation. And the nice thing is, if we start to cut back on the sugar, you can reverse those. The other thing, sugar, and this is a huge one and this is something you're going to want to speak with your medical practitioner, just because it's such a complex issue, especially in society today. But there have also been studies, all right, and it's been so amazing because now we have brain imaging studies, so it can actually take pictures of the brain. And remember, I was telling you guys that when you have sugar, it lights up the same areas of the brain that certain other drugs would, like caffeine or hard drugs, things of that nature, smoking. All right, but on this one, we also know that sugar can negatively impact mood. All right, so unfortunately, all right, it might give us that reward response and make us feel good in the short term, and it's usually a very short term, but in the long term, it's going to have negative effects on mood. All right, and what we've seen, and that comes from, mood and emotion is compromised with elevated blood glucose levels, and that's been shown in studies and also in brain imaging studies, guys. So mood can be, negatively affected, and it's just so sad because we see that, we talk about an epidemic of diabetes, an epidemic of heart disease, epidemic of mood disorders, depression, all of that different stuff, anxiety, things of that nature. That's on the rise today as well. especially with our young people, and not even young. I shouldn't even say that, but young and, anyone of any age. But there was some interesting studies, guys. I'll just point a couple out because we need to know that sugar really can affect our mood. So its negative effects on the brain. We see that increased blood glucose levels can lead to increased feelings of anxiety. They deem it sadness. Maybe you could call it depression. Doesn't really matter. I'll say sadness because that's what the study said. But increased feelings of sadness and anxiety. All right, especially during elevated blood sugar levels, when you have these elevated blood sugar levels. So that's why I was saying you might get that quick fix, but when your blood sugar levels are elevated, you're going to be increasing those feelings of sadness and anxiety. Okay, so very, very, very challenging to get over with. All right, and that's what, again, makes it addictive, because you get that quick little, nice feeling, but then you get the crash and you start getting feelings of depression, because we've seen another study that links sugar to increased levels of depression. You have increased levels of anxiety, and people don't really talk about all that much, when it's a huge issue that's going on today. People, it's cyclical, isn't it? The more and more I talk about it, the more cyclical I can see it. People might be feeling depressed or anxious, so then they turn to, soda or things or sweets, whatever it is, those foods that we were mentioning before, to give them a temporary sort of feeling of happiness or less anxiety. But then quickly after, they're just creating more and more depression and more anxiety through elevated blood sugar levels. So it's very cyclical, if you can tell. Man, you guys are smashing the like button. I'm literally just watching it go up and up in real time. Thank you so much, guys, and thank you so much for your comments. Please feel free to comment what you would like, or you can just listen to, because as sometimes, I feel like I can not ramble. I mean, the point of the topic today is to discuss, but I don't want to feel like you guys can't comment as well or anything like that. But it's such a sad thing with sugar consumption, especially with mood and things of that nature. Again, like I said, sadness, depression doesn't really matter, because we do see studies, and large studies. Again, all the studies that I usually try to give you guys, sometimes the N factor on other studies will be like 10. So that means 10 people participated in the study, or 100. These N factors, so the amount of people who participated in these studies are in like the 20,000s, all right? So tens of thousands of individuals are enrolling in these studies, and what they found was that higher rates of sugar consumption was associated with a greater increase and incidence, so just it was occurring more often, of depression. So people who were eating more sugar, all right, were more prone to having feelings of depression. And that's going to compound over time, guys. It's just like compound. Think about it like this. Your brain is the exact same, would have the exact same effects on the brain as it would for your heart. It's going to compound over time. The more inflammation that we cause, all right, the more damage we're going to be causing. One, that's going to lead to inflammation, so heart disease. All right, it's the exact same thing with our brain. All right, it's going to create more and more inflammation. It's going to create more and more of these feelings of whatever you want to call it: sadness, depression, anxiety, mood disorders, mental disorders, things of that nature. I think in one study I saw, and this kind of blew me away, high levels of sugar consumption, people were almost 25% more likely to be diagnosed with some sort of mental disorder than those with lower sugar intake levels. So think about that, guys. If the people who were eating higher levels of sugar, so who had high levels of sugar intake, a quarter of them, all right, 25% more likely to be diagnosed with a mental disorder. Now, is it a perfect correlation? There could be multiple reasons beyond just increasing sugar intake. Of course, we have to look at that. It might not be a perfect correlation, but it is quite interesting to see that there is that increase. And this is why I really make sure that I point out to you guys that please speak with your medical practitioner or a medical practitioner if you're dealing with these types of feelings. they're very complex. It might have to do with increased sugar. It might have to do with other sources. It could be genetics. All right, so you have to make sure that you speak with your medical practitioner. I'm just giving you the statistics that I've found in studies, that I found from working with people, but I please urge you, please speak with a medical practitioner, someone in the medical field, just so that they can properly diagnose or help treat and prevent these. Okay, sorry, let me just catch up on a few comments here. What about dates? Okay, great question, Lindsay. That's awesome. We talked a little bit about dried fruit on Friday, and I think this is a perfect, excuse me, segue to go in here. Dates, raisins, dried apricots, dried fruit in general, guys, I would try to stay away from, especially for trying to lower our sugar intake. The reason why, raisins, most people would think we're healthy, all right? And they're not wrong to possibly think that, because it's dried grapes, so it's fruit. But that drying process increases the amount of sugar that's in these dried fruits. So things like dates are healthy, but you just got to make sure that you have them in moderation. But they're very high in sugar. Yes. Just to answer the question, high in sugar. People will use them as a natural sweetener, but let me look at 100 grams of dates. How much sugar is in that? Just so that you guys get the... Okay, here we go. I think this can be quite effective. So, 100 grams of dates. Now, I'm not sure how much 100 grams of, but it's only 230 grams of, 100 grams of dates, dried dates, is only 230 calories, so it's probably not that much. 100 grams seems sort of like a normal intake. Some people add it to smoothies, or if you're baking, like let's say you're making like healthy muffins or things like that, I can see you using 100 grams of dates. But let's look at this. All right, so 100 grams of dates, pretty much no fat, which we know because, as I'm going to point out, it's a carbohydrate source. All right, negligible in protein, about 2 grams of protein, but 58 grams of carbohydrates, guys. 58 grams of carbohydrates. And the important thing to remember, dried dates, okay, we have 58 grams of carbohydrates, which all is sugars. Okay, so all of the carbohydrates, pretty much all of the calories from dates are coming from sugars. That can be glucose and fructose. Amazing. It's the same. Look up apricots as well. I'll let you guys look up the other one, so I don't want to waste your time looking up all these foods because it's just going to be a repeating pattern here. But if you look up raisins, look up dried apricots. I actually want to look it up because I remember pointing this out in another discussion. Because dried fruit's huge, guys. Dried fruit is super popular. It's included in a lot of trail mix, healthy foods and things like that. And I'm glad you guys are asking because these are questions that a lot of people have, a lot of my clients have. Okay, 100 grams of dried apricots, guys. Again, less than 250 calories. So again, lower in calories, right? So we would think 100 grams would be good. Again, hardly any fat, negligible. Like 3 grams of protein, again, negligible. You have 7 grams of fiber. Okay, that's pretty good. But 63 total carbohydrates, 53 grams of sugar in 100 grams of dried apricots. So just be careful of the dried fruits, guys. Just be careful. On Friday with the foods to reduce diabetes, I made sure to talk about dried fruits just a little bit. It's just so high. That drying process just creates so much sugar within them. So great question, Lindsay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the question. Good, Lester, great to see you. Just getting on stream. Great to have you, Lester. Sorry I'm a little bit behind on the comments here, guys. But Lester, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming back into the chat here. Thank you so much. Lindsay, thank you, Lindsay, for the subscribing. I appreciate it. This information is brilliant. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I appreciate that you like the information so much. Susan, you're very welcome. Miss Janet, great discussion. Miss Janet, I'm glad that you're enjoying it. Thank you. That's interesting you say that, Lindsay. And that sounds really, really good, Susan. Just again, be careful with the dates. A lot of the times it's used in vegan recipes. Not to say that vegan recipes are bad. Remember, I think any as long as you're getting your micronutrients, good macronutrients, and you're eating a healthy diet, a well-balanced diet, and you can maintain it, I think it's a fine diet. So it's not like to say a vegan diet's bad, keto's bad. I think they're all good and they can all have the potential for success. All right. It just depends. Can you hit your goals on them, and are you going to be happy and be able to continue with it? Lindsay, I tried dried mangoes and they gave me a headache. Very, very interesting comment from you, and one I would agree with. I can't have grapes. I've said this on Friday. I cannot have grapes. Grapes give me a headache, and I think it's probably 99% having to do with the amount of sugar that's in grapes. So, dried mangoes are right up there in sugar content. So just be careful with that. I don't react well to sugar. I've mentioned this before. Sugar and me do not mix, and I know this. I don't even get like it's kind of funny because people will sort of make jokes because at certain coffee places now they have like these Christmas drinks and things like that. Can't even have them. They will tell me get them half sweet with no whipped cream. Can't do it. I know my body will just be negatively affected by it, and I'll just feel horrible for the rest of the day. And to be honest, I'd probably feel less energized, and this stream would suffer. So, I just can't do it. I just stay away from it as best I can. I use monk fruit and stevia. Yeah, you know what? Meredith, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you. It's so funny because I'm getting a ton of monk fruit and stevia questions. Stevia I think is just fine. Again, keep it in moderation. Monk fruit, I don't know a ton about monk fruit. I know it's an artificial sweetener. All I kind of remember about with monk fruit, it sounds fine. All right, is it going to spike insulin levels or blood glucose levels like sugar? No, absolutely not. Splenda, probably less than that as well. Just be careful that you don't have any monk fruit allergies. Some people can have a little bit of an allergic reaction to it from what I remember reading. So do I think they're safe to use? Yes, if you don't have allergies, of course. And stevia, again, if you're using in moderation. Stevia is one of the more popular ones added to coffees and cooking and things like that. And it really overtook Splenda when I actually started really getting into nutrition. This was well over 10 years ago. Excuse me, just as I sip on some coffee. But thank you so much. Wow, 50 thumbs up, guys. Thank you so much for the thumbs up and for all of the support. I hope you guys are getting some great value from this chat. I know I'm enjoying it. Now, last thing before we get into some other reasons how sugar can affect and destroy the body. We've gotten into a ton just on the brain. How long? We've been talking for an hour already, and we've just been talking about how it can affect our brain. All right. Also, some of the foods that we want to stay away from. One, we also know that sugar intake not only can have resulting effects on slower cognitive function, but we also know that it can hinder mental capacity. All right, and again, this just comes from elevated blood glucose levels, guys. And of course, when you have sugar in your diet, the result is gonna be elevated blood glucose levels. And again, we're gonna see how that affects the body here in a second. Okay, so this can lead to, blood vessel damage, things of that nature. But we also see, all right, that not only is it going to elevate blood glucose level, but it's going to be damaging to our brain as well. And a lot of that damage comes from inflammation and free radicals, all right, and oxidative stress. We've talked about that a little bit as well. Okay. I don't always like getting into Alzheimer's disease discussions or dementia just because, again, that's something that you'd want to speak with your medical practitioner. But again, we know through studies, and again, I just relay the information from the studies and the research I've seen, all right? Again, that can lead to certain cognitive disorders, all right? So we know that there's damage to the brain being done through inflammation, through free radicals, through oxidative stress. All right, that's kind of a given. We know that. It's the same with our body. It's the same thing like saying inflammation is going to lead to heart disease, all right, or free radicals and oxidative stress is going to affect your skin in a negative way. All right, it's going to have negative impacts on the brain as well. Now, the important thing here, we know that mental capacity can take a hit if we have high blood glucose levels, guys. And, this can be more of a long-term outlook instead of like acute. So, that's why I say keep everything in moderation. If you go out and have chocolate tonight, I don't want to scare you guys and think, okay, mental capacity is going to take a hit now. Oh, I'm going to have memory issues here. This is more long-term based on the studies, but we see progressive sort of brain and cognitive damage, all right, through long-term intake of sugar can lead to things like even motor speed being affected. Again, learning ability being affected. Again, memory being affected. Okay, we know that high glucose levels, all right, especially frequent exposure to sugar, so an increased amount and frequency of high glucose levels, all right, can diminish mental capacity. All right, and to be honest, and again, it's not to scare anyone, all right, but it can actually lead to the shrinking of the brain, right? And that's just kind of what we've seen through brain imaging studies, guys. It's the same, and some people might find that hard to believe, but osteoporosis is the breakdown of bone mineral density. If you look at two pictures of someone who has healthy bones and someone who has osteoporosis, you can't tell me there's not a breakdown in the bone, in our bones. From that, it can be the exact same thing that happens to our brain. We have to be careful with that type of stuff, guys. William Williamson, hi, good morning. Good morning to you. Thank you. Great show. Do you think the possibility exists for a diabetes cure, or is it absolutely unlikely? Very interesting question, William. You know what? Speaking again, I never speak from a medical practitioner point of view. Now, diabetes cure, we have to distinguish between pre-diabetes, type 1, type 2. All right. Type 1, I probably won't even answer. That's well beyond, you would want to speak with like a medical researcher based on that. All of the things I've read, haven't really read anything too much on that, William. For pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes, we are seeing in the literature and in studies how that can be reversed, all right? Especially if we're, adding the right foods. We talked about lifestyle changes. One, starting with sleep, every nutrient, all the nutrition information I can give you guys, everything starts and stems from good sleep. We need that. All right, but we also know if we're decreasing sugar, if we're adding in those healthy foods like we talked about on Friday, all right, foods that aren't going to elevate blood glucose levels, all right, if we lose weight, so if we're not dealing with obesity, those can be things that can help reverse pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes. Again, of course, speak with your medical practitioner about that. Type 1, seems just off the top of my head, seems awfully hard. One of the ones, it's very, very, type 1 you have to be very careful with, guys. Very sad. I've known people who've dealt with it, and I say have dealt with it for a reason, and who are dealing with it. It's very unfortunate. Same with, and so is pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes as well. But what you do see in the studies and literature, it can be reversed through proper diet, through proper sleep, lifestyle changes, exercise. We talked about getting at least 150 minutes a week of aerobic exercise, and then also some resistance training as well. And then also on Friday, we talked a little bit about to reverse type 2 diabetes, all right, or to give yourself a better chance, we should say, to reverse type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetes, because it's not always 1 + 1 = 2 when you talk about these chronic diseases. But if you lose somewhere in between, I think it was 7 and 10% of your body weight, All right, let's say you're obese. If you lost 7 to 10% of your total body weight, that gave you a significant increase in chance. I think it was like 60%, maybe 50 to 60% of reversing prediabetes and diabetes. So let's say you were 200 pounds. If you lost 14 to 20 pounds, that gave you a significant benefit of being able to reverse both prediabetes and diabetes. Do I think there'll be a diabetes cure? Hard for me to say, William. I think it's a great question. And again, good morning to you. With the way medical science is going out there, you never want to say never. But again, I'm just not too familiar with the medical research out there on like a type 1 diabetes. I can give you the type 2 diabetes and the lifestyle changes to make and pre-diabetes. But with type 1, you have to be very, very careful with that. So thank you for the question, William. And if anyone else, again, any other questions out there, comments, please throw them out there, guys. I love it. 53 thumbs up. Thank you so much, guys. So yeah, very, very scary because we know, it hinders mental capacity in the ways that we just said, associated with, greater degree of brain shrinkage, the shrinking of the brain. All right. And that helps too. That happens too when you drink alcohol, by the way. So, the funny thing is we always kind of go for the sugary foods if we're, trying to get more energy in the morning or we want more focus. But we're just seeing that through the studies and brain imaging, it's the exact opposite. All right. The exact opposite. All right. We also know, and again, in studies, you guys know that I don't like to get too much into Alzheimer's disease and dementia. But according to some studies, all right, there has been a link to dementia and Alzheimer's disease from increased levels of sugar in the long term. All right. So maybe not acutely. So if you're having it here and there, all right, but in the long term, it can lead to those types of chronic diseases, especially for the brain. So this is why I titled it How Sugar Affects and Destroys the Brain. All right. Brain health. And now we can go into body. All right. Let's talk about how sugar can affect the body outside of the brain. I hope that sums up the brain well for you guys. I hope you guys got a lot out of that. Again, how long have we been going? Jeez. You guys are crushing the thumbs up button, by the way. Thank you so much. So again, over an hour there, again, just on all the ways. Mac, how you doing? Great to see you in chat as always. Thank you so much. One of the big supporters. Thank you so much, guys. So an hour into the stream talking about brain, and now we're going to be talking about body. Thanks so much. I appreciate all the thumbs up. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the viewers. And if you got any value whatsoever in here, or you're getting good value from the discussion, one of the ways that you can also support the channel is through the super chat function. Again, I don't want to have a join function or a Patreon function or anything like that. The best way to support the channel and through the live streams is through the super chat function. And then just also being in here, engaging and thumbing up. So I really appreciate that, guys. I'm doing great, Mac. Thank you very much. Having a really good discussion here this morning. It's been flying by, to be quite honest. Flying by. We're talking a little bit about sugar and its effects on the brain and the body. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the first one, how sugar can affect the body. First one, we'll stay with one that's nice and simple. One, eating more and more sugar or having increased sugar intake for the first part is going to increase your chance of obesity or weight gain. All right. We've seen in numerous studies that, and again, this is important to know. And again, it's not to be judgmental or anything like that. If you're trying to lose weight or if you're trying to get in better shape, this is your time to ask or send me a message, because like I said, this is what I do on a daily basis. All right. But we know that rates of obesity is going up and up all over the world. All right. And we know that sugar intake is going up all over the world as well. All right. But we see in numerous studies that consuming foods that are high in, sugar, glucose, fructose, all right, the main types of sugar out there from starchy foods, all right, is actually going to lead to an increased risk of weight gain. And especially those people who drink. Again, this is why I say try not to drink your calories. Try not to drink the calories, because we see in even some studies that have to do with weight gain and obesity. And for someone who's trying to lose weight, the first thing I tell them, not the first thing, but one of the more important things for diet that I would make sure that I address with them is try not to be drinking a ton of your calories. For one, it's not going to fill you up. And two, you're going to be getting like 200 calories to 250 calories before you even know it. And plus a bunch of sugar and no nutrients. And you're just going to make you hungrier during the day. I could go on and on. All right. But research has shown that people who drink sugary drinks, we already mentioned them, fruit juices, soda, energy drinks, tend to have a more risk of gaining weight. All right. And then also just on average, way more than the average person. So they've already had that weight gain. Is ensure good to consume. So I think that Mayhem, thank you for the question. So ensure, I think maybe ensure, like E-N, it might be ensure, I'm not sure. I've heard of ensure. Ensure is a meal replacement drink. Is it good to consume? Well, it's kind of created as a meal replacement for those people who can't really, get all their meals in, whether if they're sick or if they have digestive issues or things of that nature. I think if you can get it from Whole Foods, all right, you're in a good position that way. I wouldn't necessarily just turn to Ensure. Is it bad? No, it's like I said, it's a meal replacement. But I think if you can get it through Whole Foods and anything like that, then I think that might be the way to go. But again, it's going to be loaded with vitamins, minerals, things of that nature, again, just because it is a meal replacement. Ensure, yeah, okay. So Ensure, it's exactly what we're talking. We're on the same page here then, Mayhem. I would try to go with the Whole Foods if you can, just because, I'm always going to choose Whole Foods over a meal replacement drink. There's nothing wrong with Ensure. But again, it's used for those people sometimes if they're sick, sometimes if they have really bad digestive issues, if they can't eat whole foods, things of that nature, then it's the perfect thing for them because it's allowing them to hit their macronutrients and their micronutrients. So I hope that helps answer your question just a little bit. I will try to watch all of your videos. And I know they will be. Oh, thank you very much, Mac. I appreciate that. I appreciate you watching, and I appreciate you being in stream. Thank you very much for the kind words. Yeah, some people aren't a huge fan of them, Lindsay. I've had them before. And again, it wasn't for a very long period of time. It was a short period of time, and some people will like them. Some people don't like them. Some people will add them to smoothies. Some people will, just have a glass with ice and things like that. But there's, again, nothing really wrong. Just I would try to get Whole Foods if you can. I'm always kind of going to go that route. But again, that's just to kind of sum up the whole point of Ensure, a meal replacement for people who have a hard time, for more elderly people as well. And it's not just for them, but that's often who it's marketed to and often who it's being used by. So I hope that helps. But yes, one of the big ones, how it affects our body, weight gain, guys, weight gain. All right. We know that one of the main culprits, like I said, obesity, there's a epidemic of obesity around the world. A lot of people, will give you the United States, flack for it, or because I'm up here in Canada, but you hear it all the time, United States. It's all over the world, guys, all around the world. And again, it's not to be judgmental. That's just the statistics of it. Just like heart disease is going up, a quarter of the population is going to be dealing with some form of heart disease related issue, whether it be blood pressure, whether it be high levels of cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, LDL cholesterol oxidation, atherosclerosis, things of that nature. It's just the statistics that are out there right now. So weight gain is a huge one, guys. All right. We also know that if you're eating sugar, and this is why I say it's one of the things you might want to stay away from in the morning. All right. And this is why a lot of people will kind of go to the sugary foods in the morning because they want that quick fix of energy, or they want that feel good feeling because, like as I was saying, you get that brain response. All right, that elevated brain response, which makes us feel happy in the short term, because remember, long term, it's going to increase your risk for feelings of anxiety, sadness, depression, all of that type of stuff. The one thing, though, if you're having excessive sugar consumption, let's say in the morning or whenever, could be during the middle of the day or at nighttime, it actually causes a resistance to leptin, all right? And leptin is just a hormone. If you don't know what leptin is, it's a hormone in the body, all right, that regulates, how hungry we feel. It's basically the signal that tells us, that our brain gives off, our body gives off, that tells us that we're hungry, we don't need to eat anymore. But if we're eating high levels of sugar, that hormone, all right, starts to get a little bit less and less. We're not getting that signal as strong as we were to tell our body, okay, we're hungry, we don't need to eat anymore. So what happens is you eat more and more sugar, or you consume more and more sugar, whether it can be beverages, it can be through snacks, whatever it is, all right? You often eat more. Okay, so if you eat more, you're going to be in a calorie surplus, and if you're in a calorie surplus, that means you're going to be gaining weight. To maintain your weight, you're at a maintenance level of calories. To lose weight, you're in a deficit of calories. Okay, so it's very, very easy if you're only having, if you're having high levels of sugar and things of that nature, to overeat, all right, or to eat more than your body really needs, all right. Plus, you're not getting any micronutrients from it. No micronutrients. The macronutrients aren't very good. All right, it's all carbohydrates pretty much. Let's say we're having candy or soda or things of that nature. The reason why I'm not a huge fan of it as well, we want a well-balanced diet. You're only getting carbohydrates from it, and the carbohydrates are sugar. So you need to keep that in mind as well, guys. Also, we know that, and we'll get way more into this, but if you're eating sugar, it's going to increase visceral fat, all right? So belly fat, which again can be a risk factor for a bunch of different chronic diseases. All right, and belly fat, for one thing, there's numerous studies that say this. Now, yes, belly fat can be a precursor for these chronic diseases, but I think body fat in general, all right, because you see so much about belly fat this, belly fat that, heart disease. Yes, we know. But if you're overweight, all right, and if you have high levels of body fat, some people put body fat on in different areas than other people do. Some people gain it throughout the belly and hips first. Some people, put it on in the legs or in the back or chest first. So it's very dependent from person to person as well. Yes, a lot of people gain belly fat first, but again, just because you don't have a lot of belly fat, all right, but you have a lot of body fat or you're dealing with obesity, it doesn't mean that you're not at risk for these chronic diseases as well. I drink Ensure and Boost, but the important thing is to consume the ones with low sugar. Yes, absolutely. I know that they can sweeten them up a little bit too, can't they, William? So great point there as well. 4 to 6 grams of sugar. Yes, anything more than that, then you're starting to get up there. Okay, so we know the body. Weight gain is going to be a huge one, guys. Weight gain, all right, is the reason why you have so much obesity in the world today. One of the main culprits is just the amount of sugar that we're consuming. It's in everything. Like we had, I think maybe it was Lindsay who was saying, it's pretty much in everything, and it can come in various forms: high fructose corn syrup, fructose, glucose, sucralose, all these different things. All right, it's hard to get away from. All right, so it's one of the main culprits out there. Now, the other thing, if you're having high levels of sugar consumption, let's get into the next big one, guys. We've talked about this, and it's an important one to talk about, especially with it being Diabetes Awareness Month. All right, if you're increasing or having high levels of sugar intake, you're going to be increasing your risk of developing type 2 diabetes. All right, and just from a study here that I saw on PubMed, an interesting thing, I think it was something like over the last 25 to 30 years, the prevalence of diabetes, and at least pre-diabetes, but diabetes over the last 25 to 30 years has doubled. So remember I talked about that epidemic of diabetes, heart disease, weight gain, things of that nature. the last 25, 30 years, all right, it's doubled. How amazing is that? I mean, 30 years, guys. Let's say 30 years. 30 years wasn't that long ago, guys. That was 1991. So if we can think back to that, that was in the 90s. So that's pretty scary. If it was 25 years ago, it was 1996. It was almost in the 2000s. So just in that time alone, we've seen diabetes, type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, more than double. So very, very short time period right there. All right. So very, very interesting, and something to consider, guys, especially for our long-term health, as more and more people are starting to age now who are going to be dealing with these issues that come from diabetes, all right, heart disease, things of that nature. We need to make sure that we are keeping our sugar intake and our sugar consumption at risk, because for many, many reasons, I could throw study after study at you guys, but there's a very, very clear correlation between high sugar, so excessive sugar consumption, and an increased risk of diabetes, of type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetes. So one of the, again, why I say the main culprits for weight gain and obesity is sugar. It's the exact same thing for increased diabetes risk and diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. So pretty amazing when you think about it, just the effect on our healthcare system that sugar is having worldwide. Because remember, guys, this, again, the states sometimes will take some flack, or this area will take some flack, but it's worldwide. The worldwide prevalence of diagnosis of diabetes has more than doubled. It's not just in one area, it's in all areas. All right. So we often see that sugar intake, and the other thing that we need to make sure that we're aware of, that sugar intake, all right, is usually the main factor or one of the strongest risk factors for diabetes. Okay, because you're getting that increase in blood sugar levels, all right, because you're at, and you get that elevated blood sugar levels, elevated blood glucose levels, that's going to be a risk factor, a major risk factor, maybe the strongest risk factor for pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes. All right, especially over the long term, guys, because we know from multiple studies that prolonged, like I just said, long-term high sugar consumption can lead to the resistance to insulin resistance. You guys have probably seen videos on that. It's very, very popular on YouTube. Some people make videos only on insulin resistance and that type of stuff, which I think is great. I think the more information that out there, the better. But it's very, very important. But yeah, we all know, or if you don't, insulin resistance, it can cause when your blood sugars to rise. If you're insulin resistant, all right, your risk of diabetes increases dramatically as well. All right, guys. So I think that's the one thing that we want to take away from. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep track of all the comments here as I'm speaking. Sorry, I feel like sometimes I can just go on and on. What about bananas? Do they have high levels of sugar, especially ripe ones? If that is the case, how many should be eaten on a daily basis? Lester, that's an excellent question. It's so funny. With some people, I'm almost known as like the banana hater, only because they can be a little bit. The reason why I say that is because some people will have like 3 or 4 a day, or it's the first thing they grab in the morning, and then they wonder why they're hungry like an hour later. But are bananas bad? No, you should probably keep them in moderation, just like any fruit in moderation, right? I think the recommended usually for fruit intake is 2 to 3 per day. If I was going to suggest fruit to someone, bananas would probably be in there if you're going to have a banana every day. But berries are amazing, apples, pears, things of that nature. Other citrus fruits, I think are great. But just remember, in a medium banana, I think there's something like 25 grams of carbohydrates and like 12 to 13 grams of sugar. All right, now it's fructose. All right, so we need to keep that in mind. But fructose is still going to have the same effect on our blood sugar levels that other types of sugars will, if you will. So just be careful with that as well. So do they have high levels of sugar? Well, yeah, in a medium banana, you're almost getting 15 grams of sugar. It's like 13 grams. All right, in a large one, and ripe one as well, it's the exact same. All right, you just want to be a little bit careful. All right, again, it's fructose. It's not like, refined sugar or cane sugar or anything like that. But, you are going to get a little bit of that blood glucose level spike. That's why I usually have a banana after a workout, because I want that spike in blood sugar just a little bit after like a weight training or a workout or things like that. And how many should you eat on a daily basis? I think one. I think this is my own opinion, but I think one is fine. Sometimes I'll have two, and again, that's on workout days. And sometimes if I'm making like a smoothie that's like full of superfoods in it. But I think any more than that, you're just, let's say you have three, all right, that's 45 grams of sugar. If you have more than that, all right, you're getting into 60 grams of sugar, all right. Fructose, yes, but sugar nonetheless. So moderation is the key. Does that mean you can never have a banana? Absolutely not. Of course you can, all right. Just, again, make sure that you're keeping it in moderation. Okay, so I think we were just talking about increased risk of type 2 diabetes, guys. All right. So when it comes to increased risk of diabetes and prediabetes, there's a lot that we can do, and a lot of things that we can do to reverse that effect. And one of the things that's most important is lifestyle and diet. Cutting out the sugar, guys. Remember, we said one of the main culprits for obesity and for type 2 diabetes and prediabetes is sugar intake. All right, so we need to make sure, all right, we're making those lifestyle changes, and lifestyle changes includes our diet. Remember, diet doesn't mean we're trying to lose weight. It just means the foods that we're eating on a day-to-day basis. Also important to point out, because we started our discussion with this, guys, the biggest proportion of foods that people are eating where they get the most amount of sugar from. So number one was soda. All right, number one was soda and energy drinks. All right, we talked a little bit about that on Friday for diabetes and Diabetes Awareness Month. I think it was like 42% of people's sugar intake comes from soda, at least 42. That's the average. For some people, it can be more, some people a little bit less. But soda and energy drinks, 42%. Also, we talked about fruit juice. All right, that's going to be about 10%. So with those two combined, on average, the typical person is getting over half of their sugar intake from fruit juice and from soda. Now, the interesting thing, and why we're talking about diabetes, and I'm bringing this back up, is we've seen in numerous studies, so not just one or two, guys, but people who drink these sugary beverages like fruit juice, like soda, are more likely to develop diabetes than those who don't. And of course, that's an easy correlation. It's because in those sugary drinks, you're getting so much sugar in both of those. Like I just said, it's going to be like 52%. If you take someone who didn't drink that, who drank no fruit juice and no soda, and the typical person who drinks both of those, the person who doesn't drink any of those, like soda or fruit juice, is going to have at least half of the sugar amount per day that the person who's drinking soda and fruit juice would. I can't drink soda. I haven't drinking a soda in forever. I haven't drinking fruit juice probably in just as long. But I already told you guys, it's not to pat myself on the back. It's because sugar has a very negative effect on me. I can't even eat grapes. I always go back to that. It's not that I'm sure, energy drink or whatever, never tried that. Maybe I've taken a sip of Red Bull. Hated it just because it was too sweet. Haven't had an energy drink since, so I've never had an energy drink either. But I can't even have grapes or mangoes or dried fruits or anything like that just because the sugar in it. Oh, Lester, my pleasure. Sorry I missed your comment there. My pleasure. Yep, thank you for asking. My pleasure to answer that for you. So yeah, drinking, that's why I always say, guys, don't drink your calories. Don't drink, stay away from the sweetened drinks, guys. All right. It's just not going to do you any favors, especially when it comes to sugar and all the risks that come with it, mind and body. We have already gone through mind. If you missed the brain effects of sugar, guys, because I know that we've been going for a little while here, almost an hour and a half. All right. we went for about 45 minutes, maybe even more, talking about how it can affect and destroy brain health. Go back and listen to that, because it's unbelievable the effects sugar can have on the brain and the negative effects that sugar can have on the brain. So I would advise, if you did miss that, maybe give it a little bit of a listen to. Now, the other thing that sugar can do, we know not only is it going to be diabetes, all right, not only is it going to be weight gain, but it can also be an increased risk of heart disease. All right, we've seen throughout the entire world, again, it's worldwide, guys, high sugar diets have been associated with an increase of heart disease. All right. And literally, heart disease is probably, I think, it's #1 cause of death worldwide. So obviously a huge factor here, something very important to bring up. And man, we're at 59 thumbs up. Sorry, I'm just pointing that out right now, guys, but man, almost at 60 thumbs up. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much. I hope you guys are getting some good value out of this chat. But we see, and the reason why is there such an increased risk of heart disease when it comes to high sugar diets? Well, a number of reasons, okay? High sugar diets, one, we already talked about, it can lead to obesity. We also know that it can increase inflammation. We talked a little bit about this when we talked about the brain and why it can lead to mood disorders, why it can lead to Alzheimer's disease and dementia and things of that nature. And the damage that it can do to the brain. All right. So we know it can lead to heart disease because, one, obesity, inflammation, higher triglycerides in the blood, higher blood sugar levels, and higher blood pressure levels. All of these things taken together, all right, you can look at any study. All of those things, not even taken together, just one, all right, are going to be risk factors for heart disease, guys. And that's what high sugar diets are going to cause in the body. Okay. Now we also know, if you don't know what atherosclerosis is a hardening of our arteries, all right, and really clogging of the arteries, all right. We also know that if you consume too much sugar, remember I said atherosclerosis a little bit earlier? This is why I was kind of bringing it up. We know that if we're drinking or consuming, doesn't matter which way, you can drink it, you can eat it, because we know you're getting it from things like cookies, ice cream, things of that nature. If you're consuming too much sugar or high levels of sugar and you're increasing blood glucose levels, it's been linked to an increase in atherosclerosis, where you're getting more and more fatty deposits that are clogging our arteries, the hardening of the arteries. Very, very dangerous and very, very negative for overall heart health, and a huge increase, a huge factor of an increase in heart disease, guys. So yeah, atherosclerosis, another one. All right, now again, I love these studies because it's such a high N factor. There's multiple people in them. Again, this one's tens of thousands. All right, over 30,000 people, or maybe over 25,000 people. I can't remember. All right, we know that people who consumed, again, higher levels of sugar. So let's say, I think it was something like somewhere in between 20% of their calories were coming from sugar, added sugar. All right, so let's say you take one person who eats, let's just make it super simple, 1,000 calories a day, and then you take another person, all right, and then they eat 1,200 calories a day. The difference in that 200 calories is sugar. All right, that person is at almost a 40% greater risk of developing and actually succumbing to heart disease than someone who is eating the lower amount of sugar. So we see the effects, all right, not only of developing heart disease with obesity, but just from having increased levels of sugar in the body, increasing blood glucose levels, all right? That little bit. So the bottom line is, if you're adding and increasing sugar in your diet, it's gonna lead to an increased risk in heart disease. Sugar, again, one of the main culprits for increased levels of heart disease. Why? Because it's connected to everything else. All right, it's connected to obesity, it's connected to inflammation, it's connected to higher blood pressure, to atherosclerosis, to diabetes, which is going to be a higher, give us kind of a higher risk for heart disease. So all of these different things. All right, sorry, I'm just trying to catch up here. Eat the not fully ripe banana because the sugar content is less with the sodas and other sweet drinks. Yes. Yeah, the sodas and sweet drinks, for sure. Yeah, for me, guys, what I'll drink is usually water and some types of teas. I've got a juicer and a juice my apples and oranges rather than shot bot. Very nice. So yes, some nice kind of natural fruit juice there then, Lindsay. Very nice. I've always been a big fan, especially if people are having like lemon water and things like that, lime water. You guys might have heard me say it before, but squeezing the lemon or squeezing the lime into it as well so you can get the fiber benefits of it, of the lemon also. I think that's always nice because lemons have very good pectin fiber levels, which is very heart healthy. Thank you for the thumbs up, guys. I have to say, thank you so much for your support. Okay, so we see increased levels of obesity, increased levels of developing type 2 diabetes and prediabetes, increased levels of heart disease. All of that comes, like heart disease, I can say heart disease, but all of that comes with, inflammation throughout the body. Higher triglyceride levels, blood sugar levels, blood pressure levels, atherosclerosis, all of these dangerous things that we don't want, all right, having to deal with heart health, all right? So it's not just, heart disease. Take a look at all of these things that come with it, all right? It's multiple factors when it comes to heart disease, all right? The body, depression was a huge one, guys. Now, we also know that, and again, I talked about this a little bit earlier, people will turn to sugary drinks, like putting sugar in their coffee, energy drinks in the morning to get that boost of energy. But what we see, the effect that sugar has on the body actually is, because we know foods that are high in sugar, they're going to quickly give us a spike in insulin levels, in blood sugar levels, which leads to increased energy. We know that, and that's why people like it, and we say it's addictive. All right, but we also know that these energy levels are super short term. All right, you might get it for, it's hard to say. It's different for each person. For me, it's like 15 minutes. It's not long at all. I feel pretty bad after quite quickly. But we also know that you're going to get a very, very sharp decline or drop in blood sugar, all right, which you guys have heard me say a crash, like a morning crash or an afternoon crash. That's all I mean. It's just a drop in blood sugar, all right? And what you're going to get from that then, people who are turning to these things for extra energy are actually going to lose energy levels. You're going to have major fluctuations in energy levels because of these major fluctuations in blood sugar swings, all right, in blood sugar levels. So it's a huge, huge one as well. So people who turn to sugar for energy are actually draining themselves of energy throughout the morning, throughout the day, at nighttime, whenever it is. I love lemon, ginger, and cloves in the morning. Very, very nice. That's a great tea or a great combination there, Lindsay. I'm a huge fan. Cloves, I love. I'm a huge fan of lemon as well. I've been going with like green tea, ginger, tea, and then I've also been going with like fennel and clove tea as of late as well. But yeah, very, very, it can rob you of your energy very, very quickly. All right. So again, it's important. It doesn't mean that you can't have carbs, because I know some people will be like, well, I can get that crash from carbohydrates. But it just depends what types of carbohydrates you're having, guys. You want to stick to complex carbohydrates, like, let's say, oats or barley or beans, which are legumes but also carbohydrates, lentils, things of that nature, slower digesting carbohydrates, not simple carbohydrates. Sugar, definitely classified as a simple carbohydrate. All right, so very energy draining, okay? Now we also know we also know that high levels of sugar can actually age the body. All right, cellular aging can actually occur through high levels of sugar, especially, and again, this is prolonged levels of sugar intake, not necessarily acute, but prolonged levels of sugar intake is going to lead to cellular aging, is going to age the skin. All right, and actually, to be fair, we maybe should point in, can actually lead to unwanted skin conditions. One of them being acne, another one being dry skin. All right, acne is a huge one, but dry skin is also a huge one. But we see accelerated skin aging happening for people who are drinking a ton of sugar or are consuming a lot of sugar. All right, for one, we already know that sugar is going to create inflammation in the body, correct? We've talked about this a little bit when we were talking about how it affects the brain and how it affects the body. Heart disease, for example. All right, the inflammation and free radicals that's being caused through sugar isn't only going to affect the brain or heart. It's going to affect other organs too. Remember, skin is an organ, all right? So it can actually lead to skin aging, like wrinkles, all right, things of that nature. And that has to do wrinkles, fine lines, whatever you want to call it, just like even the tone and look of the skin, all right, can be a little bit worse because of the increased inflammation and the increased free radicals and oxidative stress that is being created from sugar. All right, we see this all the time. All right, there's there's tons of studies that show the role of sugar and skin aging being played out. And again, the other important thing is that we have to remember, if you want nice healthy skin, the thing that you want to eat are things that are high in nutrients. Things that are like vitamin C, for instance, is amazing. Antioxidants, anti-inflammatory compounds, all of that nice stuff. Like berries are tremendous. You get anthocyanin antioxidants, other antioxidants. You get fiber, vitamin C, all of that great stuff. Because remember, vitamin C is needed for collagen production. In sugar, you're not getting any of that. And there's no nutrient value, and you're only getting the bad stuff. You're only getting inflammation, free radicals, and oxidative stress. All right, and then just damaging skin conditions like acne, all right, and things of that nature, dry skin, which is just going to make the skin look worse as well. William, this is valuable information provided today. It's so helpful and important with regards to the correlation with heart disease. Well, thank you so much, William. I'm glad that was very helpful for you. I think it's interesting, even just taking them, the sugar in and of itself and the effects overall, but just taking a look at the individual effects, like as you just pointed out, the correlation between sugar intake and heart disease and why, how that can, how the both of those are correlated. So thank you, William. I appreciate that. Is the nerves. Yes, it can affect, the body. Yeah, like another one would be the gut, right, guys? So, like, I don't want to necessarily just run away from the skin, all right? But for gut health and like gout and uric acid, pain in the joints, things of that nature, it's going to increase that type of stuff. If we aren't getting the nutrients we want, all right, we know it makes sense that there'd be an increase in gout because it's an inflammatory condition. And what have we been talking a lot about, and even talking about with skin, is it's sugar's ability to increase inflammation throughout the body. All right, and then that's why we talked a little bit about heart disease and about all the mood disorders and also all the brain disorders, mental disorders that can happen because of sugar intake. So they all just compound in and of themselves, onto themselves. So yeah, I find that very interesting. I'm glad that you're pointing that out. But yeah, skin is what is one of the big one, guys. Cellular aging, if you're wanting that healthy looking skin, then, sugar is going to be one of the things that you want to stay away from the most. All right. Refined carbs, especially sugar, it's only going to damage collagen, elastin, all right, which is going to give you sort of that youthful appearance in the skin and stuff like that. That gets diminished with more and more long-term sugar intake, all right, and just a unhealthy diet in general. But we're talking about sugar specifically here. So make sure you keep that in mind, guys. If you want better looking skin, all right, it's important that we make sure that we're keeping sugar levels at bay. Excuse me. And with that also said, let's also not forget about if we're getting really, really high levels of sugar. Let's say you're drinking a lot of soda. Let's say that you're drinking a lot of energy drinks. One of the things that you see a lot, and I'm not pulling this from a study, but, just from dealing with clients, and I'm sure there's studies and information out there. But one of the things you see a lot is people who are consuming a ton of sugar are usually dealing with chronic dehydration. Because, you want to be drinking, one of the things we want is water and green tea. It's like the staple to my diet. But if you're having these sugary drinks, they're actually going to dehydrate you. All right. They're having the opposite effect of the things that we want. All right. And we also know high intake of fructose and glucose and sugar, whatever you want to call it, can lead to increased risk of fatty liver. All right. Which, again, because it's broken down within the liver, all right, we want to make sure that we're keeping hydrated. We want to make sure, again, this has benefits for our skin as well. But if we're constantly drinking soda and things that are high in sugar, all right, then we're not going to be taking care of our hydration levels. A lot of the times people are already chronically dehydrated. If you throw on top soda and a bunch of sugar, if you throw that on top of it, you're only making it the matter worse. People already are only getting 1 to 2, maybe 3 glasses of water a day. Maybe, for most people, it might be like 1 and then 2 sodas, all right? Or 1 and then an energy drink and a soda or something like that, or fruit juice. Again, that's going to just dehydrate you even more. A lot of people think, I'm drinking liquid, it's fruit juice, but you're not getting those hydration levels, guys, all right? Especially with soda. I wouldn't even count it. Oh, good, Lindsay. I'm glad that we're on the same page. It's a big thing. Most people that I speak to are chronically dehydrated. Their hydration, they're just not getting enough water in there. And it makes sense because so many people, one, are, drinking not only sugary beverages, but, 2, drinking sodas, energy drinks in the morning. Instead of grabbing a glass of water in the morning now, people are actually reaching and grabbing energy drinks, something that's full of soda, of sugar. The thing that makes them so popular, guys, is one, they want them to taste good. All right. How are they going to taste good? They're going to do that through added sugar. All right. And we also know, all right, and let's keep this in mind as well. What's this added sugar going to do? Well, okay, it tastes great. It's going to give you that boost of energy, or at least that perceived boost of energy, but it's also going to be addictive for you as well. All right. We want to sell them, right? That's the whole point. But you're going to be getting more and more addictive because, as we already talked, that correlation with sugar and then the brain, all right, you get that brain response, all right, that brain signal, all right, the reward response from sugar that you get, that's only temporarily, all right, only temporary, but, all right, you're going to get. And the funny thing is, as I'm thinking about it right now, and why my thought is drifting just a little bit, is when you have that sugary drink in the morning, like let's say an energy drink, or some people might even be a soda. The thing is, the longer and longer you take it, all right, that reward response diminishes. It gets less and less. So then what happens? You have another one. Maybe you have 2 energy drinks, or an energy drink and a half. Or an energy drink and a coffee with a little bit of sugar in it. See how it's a cyclical response, guys. All right. So we just have to make sure that we're aware of just how sugar is affecting not only the body, but also the brain as well. They both go hand in hand. And both can lead to some very serious chronic diseases and chronic illnesses. That's really kind of like an epidemic in today's society. Heart disease, mental disorders, things of that nature. Again, is it a perfect correlation between depression and sugar intake? Maybe not. That's why I'm always suggesting to you guys, speak with your medical practitioner. It's a complex disease, all right? And there's multiple different types. So always speak with your medical practitioner when it comes to any sort of thing that we talked about today. All right, just because I want to make sure you guys are safe and healthy, and your medical practitioner will have they'll know your body weight, they'll have your statistics, they'll have your health history, all right? They'll have all that stuff that you need, all right, to be able to make the best judgment for preventative measures and treatment measures for you, All right. And thank you so much. 66 thumbs up. This might be a new record. I don't know if we've ever hit 70 during a live stream before, guys. But thank you so much. I really appreciate the support. And I think I'd like to think that you guys are very much enjoying this conversation. And, you know, even though I feel like I hope I'm not rambling on too much and going on and on, but I am pretty passionate about this just because you guys can see all of the brain and mind and body repercussions that can come from sugar. But I think it's something that you guys can relate to as well. I think sugar, you know, people are starting to understand, you know, just how detrimental it can be to people's overall health and to our own overall health, and just how we have to make sure that we're watching our sugar levels. All right, and can replace it. And remember, if you're having, let's say, now we're right at 69. Thank you so much. I say that and then 3 thumbs up right away. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. But we have to remember too, guys, here's another big takeaway. Let's say you're getting a lot of sugar in. Let's say in the mornings you're having sugar, at nighttime you're having sugar. Maybe you drink soda every day or energy drinks. You know, some people will get turned off because they'll be like, well, food's for health. You're saying I can't have an energy drink. I'm not saying that. All I'm trying to do is put out information for you to consider for your overall health. I'm not saying, all right, in these discussions, there's no have-tos or shoulds. You know, people might leave a comment and being, you know, and saying, well, you're saying I can never have an energy drink or I can never drink soda. Again, not saying any of that. The information is just out there for you, and then it's for you to determine what you want to do and how you want to set up your diet. Again, there's no shoulds or have-tos. These aren't to be stressors in your life. It's just something for you to consider. You have to consider that for the average person, almost 45% of their daily sugar is being intaken through soda. About 55% is coming in from beverages, so soda, energy drinks, fruit juices, things of that nature. Maybe if you want to cut back on sugar, maybe you might want to cut back on some of those things. If you don't want to cut back on sugar, here are some negative effects that could, not always will, but could happen to you, all right, or could occur in the future. All right, and just what some of the studies say, and what some of the worldwide issues going on, the epidemics, like we said, heart disease, obesity, mental disorders, how sugar can impact memory, slow down cognitive function, impair cognitive function, reduce motor speed over the long term. So it's not to say, you know, you can never have this, you can never have that. The whole point of these discussions, guys, is for you to take the information and then you set your diet up how you want it. But I think having the information is the important thing. All right. Does that mean you can never have an energy drink? Absolutely not. Just make sure you're aware of what's in that energy drink, because mindful eating is something that's important and something that, you know, I'm pretty passionate about, making sure you know what goes into your diet. But then the other thing that I'm passionate about too is you not only know what's going into your body, but you know the potential consequences. All right, and it's not just consequences, because yes, it is potential. Just because you have an energy drink every day, does it mean you're going to get heart disease? It does not mean that you will, but the risk increases if you do. All right, but there's no direct correlation, like a 1 + 1. So I have an energy drink, I will get heart disease, or I will get Alzheimer's disease. But the studies show, and they're pretty significant, that if you do that, then you're increasing the risk for those types of things in numerous ways. Like, look at what we said about heart disease, atherosclerosis, higher blood pressure, inflammation, cholesterol, I'm sure, obesity, all of that different types of stuff. This information is gold for people who want to live a healthy lifestyle. Food is our medicine. Absolutely, Lindsay. That's what it all comes down to. I think it's just a healthy lifestyle. Choose the best health. Choose the lifestyle that you can live happily with and that you're healthy with. I think you summed it up perfectly. I always say have a great and healthy day at the end of my videos. And I truly mean it. I want everyone to be able to live a happy, healthy lifestyle, all right, something that they enjoy, and then have the knowledge out there where they can make those choices for themselves. But just remember, and I think if you're going to be making, lifestyle changes, just take it a day at a time, guys. Like I said earlier, don't go for the home run. If you're drinking 6 sodas in a week, don't cut out 6 sodas next week. You're just setting yourself up for failure. Again, maybe cut 1 back. All right, go to 5. And then the next week, go to 4. Take it day by day. Some people can go cold turkey and knock them all off in 1 week, and that's fine, but not everyone can. And then you're not a failure. You're not failing if you can't do that. Right? Some people think, they went off cold turkey from smoking, but what you'll find out is they took a nicotine patch. The nicotine patch helped them, and it weaned them off the nicotine from smoking. Some people will go without a nicotine patch, but you kind of know what I'm saying. Same thing with coffee. They were drinking 4 coffees a day. Then they cut it to 3, then to 2. All right. Slowly over time, all right, they started dropping it down. Went from 1 in a green tea. You guys kind of get the picture. 69 thumbs up, guys. I'm wondering if we can hit that 70, because I don't think I've ever seen 70 before for a live stream. You guys have been amazing today. I hope you guys have enjoyed this live stream. I think it's very important, especially considering November is Diabetes Awareness Month, and I've always wanted to do a discussion just based solely around sugar, just because, as you guys have seen, there's so many potential health consequences from consuming sugar. Again, should you never consume sugar? Well, of course not. Again, you're probably going to have a donut at some point in your life, or have a cookie at some point again in your life. It just goes without saying, all right? But just make sure that you're aware if you do have that, all right, or if you're having it on a consistent basis, what the potential risk can be, all right, and what you might want to stay away from. So, soda manufacturers would lower the sugar levels in their product. It would be great help start. Yeah, the thing is, William, if they did that, it would kind of be, they'd be losing some of that response, that sugar response, and the taste, right? But I'm 100% with you, my friend. I think it would be great if they did too, but there's a reason why it's in there. There's that huge sugar response. They know it sells. People like it. It's addictive. But yeah, it would definitely be a great help and great start. And thank you so much for the 70 thumbs up, guys. Wow, amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, totally enjoying and appreciating this. Thank you for taking the time to do so much research and then share with us. Well, my pleasure, Michelle. Thank you so much for your comment. Thank you, William, for your comment. And Lindsay, I wish I could scroll up and see more. I know Lester was in here, Mayhem. Sorry, I wish I could scroll up and see the rest here. But my pleasure. We've been going for 2 hours strong here now. These topics kind of get me fired up. Just the overall health. Like I say, I do this on a day-to-day basis. This is kind of my life at this point. And, I like sharing the knowledge out there. I like helping people. I think I get a lot out of it. I myself get a lot out of it, and I get a lot out of from helping other people as well. And it's enjoyable for me. And thank you, Lester. I appreciate you guys as well, as I try to I hope I make aware in some of my comments and in my videos. So I appreciate you saying that. So I think we'll wrap it up here, guys. Thank you so much for the support. 71 thumbs up. Thank you for everyone getting in here nice and early on a Sunday morning. I know that we've been starting earlier. I just really like these early morning times. I think they work out good. It's kind of a nice way to start the day, to kind of chat with all of you. Hopefully you guys, it works well for you guys, especially on the Sunday. The Wednesday went great, or I think it was the Friday this week. Usually it's Wednesday, but we had it Friday this week. Worked great as well. People are still getting in, because I know people are listening from different areas around the world. But thank you so much. 71 thumbs up. I don't think I've ever seen it. Thank you so much to everyone who came in today. And like I always say, guys, I'm trying to get as much information out there as possible. I'm going to try to come up with, someone asked about a cookbook on Friday. There's going to be a couple ebooks that I want to put out in the near future. for you guys, just to kind of sum things up. Nice, quick, easy reads. Again, I don't want to have to do a Patreon at this point. Again, if you want to, because people have asked, the way to for anything related to that is through the super chat function. So we'll leave it at that. The super chat function is really the only way that because I wouldn't have a Patreon or a join thing for right now. So we'll keep it at that. Thank you guys so much for the thumbs up. Thank you so much for everyone listening and watching and engaging. Lindsay, Lester, William, Lindsay again. Have a lovely day. Thank you very much. William, thank you. I appreciate it. And to everyone else, Michelle, thank you so much. Great discussion today, guys. Great discussion. I really like how the information... Sonia, there you are. I just talked about that book. Thank you so much, Sonia. Great to see you in chat. Perfect timing. My pleasure, Sonia, as always. Thank you for being in chat. I really appreciate it. So, thank you so much, guys. Great chat today. I think the information came out exactly how I wanted it. Great questions from you guys. And great engagement. So thank you very much. Be on the lookout for more daily videos. Be on the lookout for more streams, Wednesdays and Sundays as of right now. If anything changes, you guys will always have the little reminder down there or up on the channel to remind you of the times that they're going to be. But we'll keep it for Wednesdays and Sundays for now, guys. All right. Thank you so much. Have an awesome, enjoyable, healthy day. And thank you so much for making it such a great chat. I really appreciate all of you.